Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from today. Thanks for joining our live discussion. We're going to talk about the future of ERP and AI and other trends in the marketplace. This is sort of a mid-year review and touch point to see how the world of digital transformation and enterprise technology is changing. We've got a great panel discussion for you lined up here today, a combination of software vendors and industry analysts and myself. We're going to dive into what software vendors in general are doing in the marketplace and what new innovations we should be aware of as we approach the mid-year here, or as we get into the second half of the year. I'll introduce our guests in here in just a moment. Before I jump in, though, just a couple quick logistical things. First of all, we're streaming to several different channels and platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and X, among others. So thanks for being here today, wherever you're joining from today. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. We'll get to those questions along the way. And if you don't mind dropping in the chat right now, where in the world are you joining from? What city and country are you joining from? And I'd also love to hear kind of a second part to that question. Not only do I want to know where you're from, but I also love to hear what trends or innovations you're most excited about in the enterprise tech space, or just what general questions you have about the enterprise tech space. What's on your mind here today, just so we can tailor our discussion here for you all. So again, my name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent and tech agnostic consulting firm that helps clients with digital transformations. We're not affiliated with any of the software vendors here on today's discussion. However, all of the software vendors are amongst the sponsors of our upcoming Digital Stratosphere conference coming up in Denver, late August. And it's also, not only is it going to be in person, but it's also an opportunity to join virtually too. If you can't make it to Denver, Colorado in the US, you can join virtually as well. You can buy virtual passes or in-person passes. There's a QR code I'm gonna leave up right here. If you'd like to register for that, please scan this. You can see the speaker lineup. Many of us will be speakers at this event. And those of us that aren't speaking at the event have counterparts that will be speaking there. So I'd love to see you there. We're gonna talk about all sorts of things related to digital transformation, tech agnostic event. Would love to see you there. So I'll leave that QR code. Be sure to scan that if you'd like to see the speaker lineup, the different ticket packages we have, and all that good stuff. So all that being said, great discussion we're going to have for you today, and love to get first of all an introduction going here of who we have on the line. So let's start with you, Karen from Priority Software.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today and have the opportunity to share with you what we are doing in Priority Software, the AI era. Priority Software is a leading ERP platform, and I'm focused on ERP platform. We have a lot to say about it. Some of you familiar with the composable ERP, the same idea of robust components and the functionality on top of that. And one of the major components that was lately added to those robust engine components is AI. And we just introduced the AI ERP. You probably can see some of the AI party merch that I have behind me. And the idea here is that AI is not just another feature of ERP, but it is something that injected into the system and change actually the full idea of what is an ERP.
Great. Well, thank you for being here today and joining all the way from Tel Aviv in Israel as well. So thank you for being here. And then Scott Bickley from Infotech. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. Scott Bickley. I'm an advisory fellow at Infotech Research Group. We're basically an IT research and advisory firm that helps IT leaders make strategic, well-informed decisions through our unbiased, actionable research. We help people basically systematically improve their IT processes and governance and alignment with the business. So our practice focuses on more the business side of IT, more around vendor management, contract review, and contract structures, as well as best practices around procurement for software and technology services. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for being here again, Scott. And then Craig from NetSuite, Oracle NetSuite.
Yeah, excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us on. I have a bit of background envy of Scott going on here right now, but we'll do our best without the beautiful background. Craig Sullivan of NetSuite. I'm the Group Vice President of product here, responsible for our optimized cash and profits value stream, which is As many of you will probably be aware, sort of the heart of the business, the financial capabilities, spanning managing cash, financial reporting, managed tax, getting paid, making payments, etc., and representing NetSuite amongst the this lofty panel of colleagues in the industry. NetSuite is the first cloud ERP system. We've been delivering our solution cloud only for the last 26 years now, and also driving the solution through to this new era of AI embedded and built into to business systems. So I'm delighted to join and get the opportunity to speak with you all.
Great. Thank you very much. And then Elliot from Epicor.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everybody. I'm 𝐬𝐬𝐧𝐿. I'm with Epicor Software, one of the leading providers really within the manufacturing ERP space for not just ERP, but also ancillary tool sets that are being leveraged day in and day out. One in particular that we see as really the primary driving talking point for today is around AI. For those that do and or don't know much about Epicor, we are the longest standing manufacturing specific ERP that is known to exist. We were officially 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐅𝐮𝐭 in 1972. So I've brought with me an absolute phenomenal subject matter expert here at Connor Hyder, who I'll let introduce himself in a moment. But what we do want to talk about is how we're breaking the barriers of just a traditional ERP in that formal sense, right? ERP has evolved into more or less a
Oh, we lost him right at the punchline there, the headline of what he was going to say. So, and we lost Connor too. So let me let them both back in the room here. There we go.
I'm sorry about that. Do you have me?
Yep, you're back.
The glories of
discussions.
the glories of living in the country. Internet is a bit spotty. I don't know where you lost me. If you could.
Yeah, just at the I think it was just the last part you were saying, Epicor, you talked about how it's one of the original cloud manufacturing systems, and then you started to say Epicor is, and then we lost you.
Okay. In regards to that, what I was saying is that we take a very different approach from an ERP perspective. It's no longer just the traditional data source for your business. It's offering extensibility, flexibility with embedded tool sets that are native to Epicor Kinetic as a whole. Now with me is Connor Hyder, who has been at the forefront of this AI revolution, even before it really was almost an expectation, right? He's my trailblazer. He's got a ton of experience outside and inside of Epicor. And I think having that expertise really helps weigh in the gravitas of what we can deliver for all of our customers.
Great. And speaking of Connor, you're from Epicor as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Speaking of Connor speaking. Yeah. So I'm a solution engineer here at Epicor. And my role is really understanding client needs in alignment with capability and demonstrating that. So that could be anything from the full suite of ERP to even the tool set and how we can leverage that in creative ways, up to and including even our AI products like Prism agents that we also have. And, I appreciate you bringing us on here, and I'm excited to talk through some of the topics that we have today.
Absolutely. Yeah, great to have you all. And I always love getting a group of different vendors together because you don't see it very often. You don't see, kind of a peer discussion like this happening that often. So I always find it super fascinating just to hear the different perspectives of people that are in the forefront of developing the stuff that, we're out there talking about and implementing with our clients. Just to turn to the audience real quick before I get to my first couple questions here. Got a couple comments I want to get to. Chris on LinkedIn says, thanks, Eric, for arranging this. Hello from the UK. Mohammed and one or two other people said that we're not audible. We can hear each other, but hopefully you guys can all hear us. I think the audience can hear because they're responding to what I'm asking. So let me know if anyone's still having trouble hearing us at the moment. Mike joining us from LinkedIn in Houston, Texas, is looking to learn more about MCP and low-code platforms. So we'll be sure to get to that as we're getting into the questions here with the group here. And And then a couple of people said the audio is now working. So hopefully you heard everything we were saying here. I also want to say hello to Sammy on YouTube, joining from Nairobi, Kenya, in the legal and professional services sector. And then we've already got a question here coming in from Chris on LinkedIn, who says, will ERP providers be bringing new versions of their platforms, which companies will have to upgrade to? So I guess we might as well rip the Band-Aid off. The question of upgrades, forced upgrades, all that stuff. This will be really interesting because, Craig, you might have a different perspective than the others, just because NetSuite is sort of native cloud and it's always been in the cloud. So it's maybe not quite the same for you guys, but maybe why don't we start with you, Craig, if you don't mind? And I hate to maybe put an unfair question on you because you guys don't really have upgrades per se, but what are your thoughts on, being a native SaaS and cloud solution? How do upgrades factor into your solution? And then I'll sort of ask the same of the other vendors as well.
Yeah, thanks. And it is a great question, and it's something that we at NetSuite, we're very, very proud of, having to figure out how to solve way back when, at the beginning of our journey, when this space that's become known as the cloud was still known to some as ASP, application service providers, and then SaaS, and only subsequently became termed the cloud. As adoption grew, we realized very early on that one of the advantages of being in the cloud was that we were taking away some of the, or actually much of the hard work and effort that was required in maintaining physical software on servers that were running in the facilities of our target customers. And at that time, we were selling to relatively small businesses, and when they would come to us and ask us questions about security and availability and the kinds of systems and hardware that our application was running on, and they were talking to us in their office where their entire business data was sitting on an IBM or a Dell PC that was also there, where their coffee cup was resting underneath their desk. They were very concerned about what would happen with their data when they could no longer see the service. And so we went through that transformation, that education process, if you will, to help people understand that we're building for scale, we're building for handling thousands, tens of thousands of customers in our infrastructure, and that we were taking these responsibilities on. Turning to upgrades, then the notion of running in the cloud and of turning over those responsibilities to a cloud vendor also meant that we had to solve the upgrade problem. And I won't say that it was while I was around at the time, it was folks like Evan and other of the early team members that figured out exactly how to do that, and to make it a seamless process. So while we do quote unquote upgrade our product, we have twice yearly major releases and monthly minor releases. Those are by and large a seamless process for our customers. All of the configurations that our customers have in place, all of the extensions, particularly the extensions that are deployed by our Suite Cloud Developer Network partners that are deploying what we call Suite apps to either verticalize or extend horizontal capabilities. All of that becomes part of the implementation for our customers, and all of that is seamlessly quote unquote upgraded or supported and maintained across all of our releases multiple times a year. And so that's a responsibility that we took on, and we think and we believe, and as we still do, that is the responsibility of the software vendor. We shouldn't require that our customers have to figure out how to solve those problems, that they should feel confident with the way that they tailor, configure, and extend their solution. And we see that carrying forward as well. So this transition that's taking place, this transformation that's taking place with more AI being embedded in these solutions, for NetSuite customers, that's going to become seamlessly available to them. They're not going to to have to think about what it's going to take to migrate and reconfigure or re-implement. Those capabilities are being rolled out to them already and today and will continue to do so. So it's a great question. It's something that's very important and a huge consideration for all businesses when they're deploying any business software and critically for their ERP. And we take that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah. How about you, Connor? I want to get your perspective too, because unlike NetSuite, Epicor has sort of made that transition from on-premise provider to cloud provider. How does that look for your customers? When it comes to upgrades in general.
Yeah, no, so it's a good question.
Well, Eric, if you wouldn't mind, maybe if
Epicor has put a down there.
Hey, Ellie, you were going to say something there?
I think our internet's a little choppy. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say in regards, and Connor, if you don't mind, maybe I'll kind of lead off with this, just from a migration standpoint. To Craig's comment, I can't summarize it much better than what he was saying from a NetSuite perspective, right? But I think the long pole in the tent is Epicor, being in the ERP space now for 53 years, we came up through that traditional deployment model of servers on site, everything deployed on premise. If you wanted to tunnel in, you had to go through the VPN network, things of that nature, right? But what we noticed around 2010, 2012 was this push for, and it seems dated now, but a multi-tenancy cloud deployment model. And one of our big pushes is obviously Epicor Kinetic as a whole is a cloud-first organization, completely rewritten 5 years ago. The deployment model is as clean as really I can see from a competitive perspective, but we have that fact of the matter of having a fairly large amount of existing customers that are still on premise, and some of them still love that. Now, we've never sunsetted a solution. However, what we've done is tailored a clean migration path for these customers to replicate even some of their own personalizations and or customizations that they did in the world of Vista and Vantage and 10 and Avante and all these legacy solutions. And we've designed and developed something called the CIRRUS program, CIRRUS. And what we can do is really lift and shift and or just replicate their existing processes in place in the table structure that we know, right? We designed, we developed it, we still support it. But how can we tunnel them into Kinetic as cleanly as possible without a massive amount of disruption? And that's been in the queue now about 10 years, that initial program was kicked off. And it was really relegated just towards the historical, formerly known as Epicor 10 or Epicor 9 or Vista Vantage. You remember these names, Eric. But we've taken a broader stroke at this and have now really started to replicate into some of these legacy providers, or I should say platforms, to bring them into our flagship solution, which is Kinetic.
Yeah.
Can I add, please,
Sure.
to that bottom? Because we in priority also a veteran product, tens of years in the market. It's true that on the last few years, most of our customers go directly to the public cloud, but we still have some of our customers in the on-prem version. I mentioned before the platform idea of the product, and the platform idea, this is the one that enable us to seamlessly migrate customers from the on-prem to the cloud. It's the same product, but because of the platform concept, we have different layers. So we rewrite. It's not really lift and shift because we need to change technologies. While we are moving from the on-prem to the cloud, we need to move to microservice. We need to break the monolith and some other technological stuff. But it's seamless to the customer. It's not like they have to do a new or to upgrade with a new project or deployment of ERP. It's the same project as is, just like a magic migrate to the cloud with their private customization. And if I will take it to the AI era, because we want to talk about AI, we must talk about AI. That's what we are doing all the day. I must say that you don't necessarily have to be on the cloud version to enjoy all those AI capabilities. You can enjoy it, of course, on the cloud first, because the technology and the platform enables that very easily. But when we're talking about hybrid models and we can have some AI services, and the platform idea talking about openness and unlimited connectivity, so you can integrate those services to priority embedded AI services or to additional AI apps if you want. And it doesn't matter if you are on the on-prem platform or on the cloud platform. The idea is that you can enjoy new technologies such as AI in both situations.
Right. Yeah, that's well said, and I appreciate that different perspective there. Scott, speaking of different perspective, I want to ask you, Scott, about your perspective. I know you and I have been fairly vocal. Both of us have been fairly vocal about some of the forced upgrades that some vendors, no one that's here on the panel discussion here today, but there's been other vendors that are maybe a little more aggressive and inflexible in their upgrade strategies with their customers. What are your thoughts on this whole concept of, upgrading cloud, and should we or shouldn't we upgrade to the cloud now? Should we stay on-prem if the vendor still provides an on-prem solution? Obviously, that doesn't apply to NetSuite because NetSuite is native in the cloud. But for these other vendors that are sort of have these hybrid models, how do customers navigate that decision or that path?
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and apologies for the background noise. I'm up here at a lake location, and it's a little bit backgroundy. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're layering on now like multiple challenges. So there's been and will continue to be a major push for legacy software providers that maybe originated on premise to build out and migrate their customer bases to the cloud. And I think customers do need to understand that this is long term, not really going to be an option in perpetuity. As we've heard today, maybe some providers are going to provide a longer leash or runway for you to make that decision, but ultimately the CFOs are demanding a shift in those revenue models. So even if you do stay on premise, you're going to eventually probably move to subscription-based licensing or something to that effect, and it's just because the economics demand it. At this point, at this stage, now you layer in AI functionality and capabilities, and it gets really interesting. It's like a patchwork quilt, or maybe a spectrum, where on the more aggressive side, you've got vendors that were already force migrating their customers to the cloud, really taking sometimes some predatory tactics to do so. If you want our solutions, you need to be on the most modern version in the cloud. Hey, we want to bring you across in a different way, and our version of what standardized looks like in our environment, not really taking into account what maybe your competitive differentiation dictates that you need to do from a customization or configuration perspective. Those words, kind of have become evil in the world of ERP, and there's a lot of good conversations you've hosted around that, Eric, on multiple platforms. But there's a lot of utility that comes from that in some instances as well. And then you kind of go all the way, you swing through that spectrum, you come to the other side, and you have, I think the cloud native providers do have a bit of an advantage, right? You don't have to migrate a legacy customer base to a new solution. Anytime you're going to do that migration, no matter how seamless you try to make it as a vendor, and I applaud efforts to do so and to give customers the time to make those decisions on their timeline, it's still a big expense, and there's going to be a lot of churn and a lot of change that comes with that. So if you're already cloud native and you're already on a cloud native platform, you've already probably adapted to how updates come in, how you test them, how you evaluate when you turn those features and those functions on. And it's just a natural state to layer in AI functionality. I think the interesting pieces is, what value is the AI functionality actually going to provide you at this point in time? I think the issue of migrating from, let's say, legacy on-prem to cloud is exponentially more important than what AI features am I going to be switching on and off today. And I'm sure we'll segue into what all of that entails, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening. But I look at the backdrop of investment and the extreme hype that is built up. and it kind of feels like, the whole technology ecosystem has become a one-trick pony around AI.
Yeah. Hold that thought. I want to come right back to the AI thread here in a minute. I knew we weren't going to be able to get too far into this without getting right into AI. So thanks for just ripping the Band-Aid off, Scott. So I want to say hello, first of all, to some team members here, or some audience members in the on the different channels here. Zoha's joining from Switzerland. Thank you for being here today, Zoha. We have Anthony joining on LinkedIn from Dubai, an Oracle ERP expert. And David is joining from Pennsylvania, and he loves Priority. So I don't know if you know Karen, or if you know David, Karen, but there you go. And then we also have another fan, but this one of NetSuite. Pauline says go NetSuite. So figured you'd like that, Craig. So
Thank you, Pauline.
So real quickly then, speaking of AI, let's talk about it. I mean, I want to start with you, Connor, since you're sort of the resident AI expert on the panel here, but Connor from Epicor, what are you guys seeing in terms of not only what you're developing on the AI perspective, because I think we all know you guys are spending, all of you vendors are spending a lot of R&D dollars on AI. And to Scott's point, there's a lot of AI options out there. Some of it's been taken advantage of. There's some good use cases out there for some of the AI capabilities, but some maybe not so much. So what's the difference between what you guys are seeing like on the front end development side of what's available versus what customers expect and what they're actually deploying?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways of looking at this. The first is what do customers expect? And I think that comes down to good use cases for AI where it actually works and functions and solves for problems in the business. The other side of it too is sometimes almost AI adjacent type solutions, right? How can we use AI to influence what the ERP is doing? Not that it necessarily has to be the solution itself, but it can help us leverage the AI tools even better. And so when we look at what we're doing at Epicor, we've got Prism, right? The primary agent that people are going to interact with. And we call them agents in terms of the different use cases that we solve for, but we house them all under one interface, right? So there's a lot of functionality that goes into that. On top of that, right, people are collecting data. There's another big thing that I think is still top of mind. Business intelligence is not going away, and all of that data is here to stay. And so for us, if you go back a couple of years, we acquired Grow, the business intelligence solution, and springboarded from that. And now we're moving forward with something called Grow Data Platform. So how do we take all of that intelligence that we're already trying to visualize and get in front of people, and also get that in front of our AI so that people can leverage even more data, potentially not even inside the four walls of an ERP login. And then, I mentioned already, not quite novel, but I like to say that adjacency and compatibility. And so kind of even leading back on the previous question about upgrades and moving to the cloud, we have an implementation AI that can actually go and analyze things like customizations, because so many customers may actually forget what some of those things even did or the context for how they performed. But then another level is our AI can assist in actually helping move forward in the sense of leveraging the internal tool sets that we already have, right? We've got business activity queries built into the ERP. We've got application studio, so you can influence how the screens look, feel, and function. We have automation studio, so we can leverage AI even across multiple systems where and when we want to. So we want to give people a lot of flexibility to get things done that are important, but then also the tools so that they can add value themselves as well, so that they're not necessarily locked into just an Epicor solution. We provide really an entire ecosystem for people to operate in now.
Yeah. How about you, Craig? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on not only what NetSuite is doing from an AI perspective, which I did have a chance, by the way, to interview Evan Goldberg, your founder, not too long ago about this, but I'm sure things have changed and evolved since then. But I guess more specifically, if where you guys are is up here, in terms of AI capabilities and enhancements and things you're building. Where do the customers fall as far as what they can actually consume and how well they understand how they could be using AI? Because what we see is sort of a disconnect there. Vendors are way up here and customers are down here just trying to figure out what the hell AI is, while you guys are out on the forefront of the bleeding edge, just, finding all these different use cases or potential use cases. What do you see is there a gap there from your customer perspective, or how are you addressing that?
Yeah, that is actually perhaps the billion, trillion, whatever dollar question related to this transformation that's taking place right now, is the vision that customers have, and the dreams or the aspirations that they have for what AI can do for their business and for them, is ahead of what they're comfortable actually today doing with AI. And their experiences mostly are from the consumer-based solutions, the Chat GPTs of the world, and everyone reads the stories about the hallucination phenomenon, and from an ERP system perspective, and particularly from the financials perspective, hallucinations are not acceptable. You have to have accurate numbers, and you have to be able to sign your name to those, and ensure that that you're reporting accurately as part of your fiduciary duty if you're a CFO. And so there is that gap in terms of the adoption. There's a lot of interest, a lot of aspiration to adopt, but there is still that trepidation. We're at the very beginning of this journey, and what's really interesting about this journey, and it's not unlike the journey to the cloud 25 years ago, except that it's massively accelerated, and the rate of change of this technology is. Just last week there was a huge leap forward in LLM, capabilities and technology with a very well-known company. You're making very, very bold claims about how big their leap was. The reality is that that's happening all the time, and the capability that we're seeing these solutions develop is ahead of what our customers are able to consume in terms of thinking about how it will help them transform their business. And so what we're doing is sort of providing, if you will, a point of view, a perspective on how those technologies can benefit business, how it can be used to accelerate decision making through incredible insights, just as was mentioned a few moments ago by Connor, and what it can do to help with more efficient business process and the execution of business process in the interest of servicing and better servicing our customers. And so we're deploying LLM technology within the suite, so that you can interact directly with the suite, communicate, collaborate with the suite, through generative AI. Use these tools to identify and present narrative insights. That's another part of this, is making it easier to consume everything that's going on in the business with natural language communication and explanations of what the data might be, and the proposal and recommendations on what to do about what's going on in the business. And so as we're introducing these things, we're seeing what customers naturally gravitate towards in terms of how where they're comfortable adopting those things, and we're working with them to get that feedback and to evolve those solutions. And then we're also putting things in place in other areas to see how that may be responded to as well. But our key approach with this is maintaining the human in the loop. The system, the AI, is not making decisions for you right now. It's sharing insight. It's providing information to help the human make better decisions. And even in this world of agentic capabilities and asking the system to go off and take actions, again, particularly in the finance function, particularly in the back office parts of the organization, people still want to be sure that they're making the decisions and that they're calling the shots. So we don't see that changing for quite a while, perhaps if ever. But the nature of the decisions and perhaps the leveling up of those decisions, the abstraction of those decisions, we expect to evolve over time as the solutions get better and people get more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I may as well, because I think a component of your question is, right, the companies like us, Epicor, and everyone else here that's joining us and pioneering this, we're developing at a rapid pace, but our customers might be more timid in terms of taking that leap. And I appreciate you actually bringing that up and bringing that to light. And I think there's a couple components that happen with that. One is just accessibility of systems in general. If you take AI out of the conversation, ERPs can still be something that, are difficult to use depending on the type of user that's interfacing. And so, at least from our perspective, right, Epicor is supported in many languages and used in many languages throughout the world. We've done things like make sure that natural language queries, they don't just work in English, they work in many different languages as well to make it more accessible. And for us, making sure that we train on particular system context so that people can ask questions in a way that feels natural to them, without necessarily having to have like the Epicor semantics, if you will, to get the right answer, is also helpful. And then just one final little thing too, I think sometimes people, they don't want to necessarily, trust, is this AI, is it gonna protect my data? Is it working for me? So I think it's important, right? And Epicor is doing this, and I know other companies are on this track as well, right? We're building our PRISM model from the ground up to actually respect things like user role-based access control, what data they should have access to, right? There's an orchestration layer that is model agnostic in the way that we answer questions. So we protect the data and deliver results at the same time in a secure manner for those users as well. And we're going to build from that foundation to add more and more benefit to it over time.
Yeah.
I think that on the one hand, the customers want AI. Organizations understand they have no other choice, like cloud a few years ago, but they need to have AI. But on the other hand, they are terrified from AI. Terrified from the trust perspective that you just mentioned, that a machine will take some decision for them. Terrified from the fact that maybe for some of the employees it will replace me in my job. There are a lot of anxiety around AI, and when I'm looking at what we are doing in Priority, we're talking about the assistant, the one that everybody is much familiar and feel comfortable with it, because it's like the ChatGPTs and all it. I can control what is going on there. It's just like a user experience, less UI, more AI. Just talk with the system in your NLP and it will work for you. So you don't need to navigate into that complex ERP, and you don't have to learn the UI, and you don't have to remember where to do, what to do, how to do. You just need to go to that chat and ask the system to work for you, like the chat ERP. And I think that's the more thing that our customers adopt. When it comes to the advisor part, you must keep the human in the loop, as you already said, because they do not trust, and they're right, they should not trust the machine for taking decisions for them. They need some recommendations or insight, or we're talking now about descriptive analytics. The AI can take all those reports from the ERP and just describe it with words or with chart, but then you can control and review and decide what to do with it. So it's like an assistant, and the advisor part must keep the human in the loop.
Yeah, that's well said. And I want to actually build on something you just said, Karen, and pull in a couple comments here from the audience. And I'm going to ask you a question related to this, Scott, more from a customer perspective, an ERP customer perspective. But the two comments I want to get to, Chris on LinkedIn says companies and users of ERP systems are trying to understand that AI is good, They know they can make use of it, but they need some guidance on where they're really going to add value from their current system. So that's one comment. And then the follow-up here, the other comment I want to get to is from Carrie on LinkedIn. Carrie says, I think customers want also from vendors on AI as the real conversation and lessons learned on data needing to be clean and managing organizational change management. There's leadership and communications to calm those who think their job will be replaced by it. So I guess I want to shift to you, Scott, and sort of get that customer perspective, because you guys as analysts, you work with tons of different customers that are thinking about AI, they're thinking about cloud, they're thinking about all kinds of stuff related to enterprise technology. But how do you see customers adapting? I mean, what's your view from the front line of how customers are actually adapting or responding to AI?
Yeah, I think there's a few points to make on this one. Here, one that probably is not really thought about or talked about a whole lot is the whole contractual aspect of AI. And as vendors, you're layering in, maybe on an ERP, from an ERP perspective, these features just show up one day. Other times I have to elect to go out and buy a solution, a point-to-point solution, or maybe I'm building my own model and building my own solution. Either way, no matter what, my colleague Phil Bodie, a principal research director here, we've got a pretty extensive, vendor insight note coming out around these contractual aspects that you have to consider. How do you get organized around your organization just to think about AI, and what are the risks and risk levels that you're willing to take on across different, domain functions, across different legal functions, liability functions? What happens? I read some terms from a vendor the other day for their chatbot that says, hey, if you upload anything that results in a claim on us from a third party around any type of infringement, you will indemnify us completely. That's just for the claim, right? That doesn't even mean anything was proven. So now how do I go out with a company of 10,000 people and make sure that all of them are not able to put in some type of infringing content into this Gen AI interface that automatically puts the company at a point of liability, right? So there's 3 dozen examples like that. So if you're not looking at contracts, if you're not talking to people that are going to start informing you of the questions you should be asking yourselves and your colleagues, and really examining within your industry and the questions to be asking your vendors, that's one point. Looking at things more from a functionality perspective, which I think where this was kind of coming from initially, I think we are definitely seeing that, we know most organizations are struggling with data governance, data management, data quality. That is a core requirement for any AI solution to have a chance to give you accurate results on a regular and reliable basis. That is going to require organizational change management. That is going to require you to do some things differently. You might need to say, wait, we've got 6 months of work to do over here in this area to get our data set up before we can really take advantage of certain solutions that are in the marketplace. I think even at that point, you've cleaned up your data, you have curated data, you've enacted maybe fine tuning and RAG and all of these different tools to try to really narrow down the results you get to make it as accurate and reliable as possible. There's still things that are going to potentially go awry, and that's where the human in the loop definitely comes into play. I think from my perspective, it's probably more reliable if I'm looking at getting some feature functionality from an existing vendor, like one of my ERP solutions, because the ERP provider is looking across a data set across thousands and thousands of customers. They understand what their modules are trying to do within a specific feature, and they're able to really train and test against that feature and come up with what should be demonstrable to the client or to the customer, a really reliable value-added feature. And I think some folks on this call have made the point, this is not necessarily going to be earth-shattering, but it should enhance what you're doing today. It should add value. And that is, to me, where the realm of possibility day, as opposed to The headlines that I read where, hey, we've created this model and our developers are 30% more efficient. No, they're not, and you go out and look at the data. First off, a developer only spends 25% of their time writing code. So there's no way you're 30% more effective through a code assistant, even though that's one of the leading use cases. I started reading some data this weekend where when you take a complex code base, a heavyweight code base, and you put real developers on it using these tools, and you actually measure them, they took 19% longer to finish their tasks. They didn't have any efficiencies at all. That led me to then say, and to ironically use AI to debunk AI. I go out and use ChatGPT Pro to say, show me studies where these code assistants have been used and what were the results. And it's interesting. It shows you these studies that are pretty simplistic, pretty easy use cases, things that demonstrate results. But all you see on the headline is 30% productivity increase. So do yourself a favor, look beneath the headlines, talk to your vendors, start developing relation paths with your vendors, and start having these conversations with multiple stakeholders across your organization, not just the business side, but the technology side as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's well said. And it's, every business, every organization is going to have different use cases that mean more to them, or they're going to have more business value than others. And so I think that's a key part of it too, is the better you understand yourself and your self-awareness of what we're good at, where the inefficiencies are and the opportunities really are for AI in our organization, which might look different from, the guy or gal next door. So I think that's the key thing, is really understanding where you think you can get value out of AI. Because I think, these guys, and I want to speak for all of you, the vendors in general, but you guys are investing a lot of money and time in AI capabilities. And so chances are pretty high there's a tool out there that these vendors are providing that can help you. It's just a matter of, is it right for you? Is it a distraction? Is it actually delivering value? Focus on those things that are really giving you value.
That point, Eric, and just one more thing, and I'll let everyone else talk. But I think that point around investment, that's key. That's one of my big things, right? I started looking at this in terms of scale just the other day, and I went back to kind of the PC era. And if you look at where things were kind of evolving, as PCs matured, development was maybe in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year in terms of investment. You move to the smartphone era, you get to like the tens of billions of dollars a year. You're now talking about hundreds of billions of dollars a year in a compressed time frame. Now we're starting to hear trillions of dollars. Okay. If you think there's not going to be pressure to have a return on that investment, or that money can continue to be invested at this scale indefinitely, you're sadly mistaken. And so that is why we're starting to see this disparity in this scale across vendors. Some are taking a kind of gentler approach, saying we have to own this investment cost right now. We don't have the value to go out and recoup those dollars. Others are saying, pay me now, pay me large. And, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff from that, because that's the real problem today, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. I want to follow up. I'll start with you on this one, Craig, if you don't mind, from NetSuite. But this is from VJ on LinkedIn. Says, how can you alleviate the concerns regarding security and data protection that are causing companies to hesitate in adopting AI technology? So back to the point we were just talking about around, I think, Scott, you were talking about the contractual side of things, where some vendors are saying, hey, if there's a breach or there's some misappropriation of information, we're not liable for it, and you're going to hold us not responsible. What's your view on this? I mean, how can customers be comfortable that their data is secure, not just with AI, but in their ERP systems in general?
Yeah, I think I mean, all these questions are really great, and this is an important question, whether with AI or not. What is the tech stack? What versions of software is being deployed? Who has those contracts? What responsibilities are being taken by which vendor, etc. NetSuite, I guess we have an advantage in some ways. We've always been a single system, and for the last approaching 10 years now, we've been part of the Oracle organization, which provides very, very deep, very, very rich, very, very secure, very very scalable infrastructure. We rely very heavily on those investments, as I know many other vendors do. For us, we're leveraging the AI infrastructure that Oracle provides, and ensuring that in the context of of security, the data is going into Oracle and it's staying in Oracle. We're leveraging the Oracle generative AI services. It doesn't go without the user's knowledge anywhere beyond that infrastructure. So from that perspective, it's a closed loop. That's not to say, and this is true in business just as it is in life, that someone if they have the appropriate privileges on their desktop, that they can't go and ask ChatGPT a question directly from their browser. But our system is not doing that without the knowledge of the administration functions and the implementation. Within that, and again, I do think that we sort of as an industry, we're sort of labeling everything with AI, and then it's perceived that is every aspect of that is different than what's gone before. If you think about AI as potentially another user in your system, then of course you have to think about what roles, what permissions, what privileges you're going to provide that user. What can they have access to? Can they read? Can they edit? Can they export, etc. It's very important that just as we are, that as vendors, we make those decisions transparent, and that they're in the hands of the administrative function of our customers, and that it's done under deep consideration in terms of what are the outcomes that you're looking for. Again, just as you would, you're not going to give a junior member of an organization the same access, the same privileges as a more senior member of the organization. Those things need to be thought about. And then from within that perspective, now you've got AI agents, etc., operating within the constraints that you've provided, and now you're thinking about what value add should we be looking for from those capabilities. This isn't magic. It looks like magic to end users often in terms of just how did it figure out the answers to these questions, but it is a very, very advanced tool set, and it needs to be leveraged in with forethought, and with an understanding of what it can do for you, and make sure it's deployed within the confines of the system. The last thing I'll say before I hand it over, because I know others want to talk about this, we definitely believe that the best AI is based upon the best data, and the majority of our customers' data, not all of it, but a large amount of our customers' data, in our case, exists within the suite. And so, we have, if you will, quite a lot of capability in terms of controlling, what can be accessed within that context, and then leveraging, MCP server, based technologies, the ability to connect and communicate with other systems, just as, in the past, SOAP-based RESTful, interfaces and API technology, leveraging into integrations with other systems. All of that, requires an understanding of the context, the semantics, as Connor mentioned earlier on, of what that data means in order for the AI to utilize it and make the best use of it in the context of what the business is looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And 𝐷𝐞, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, on LinkedIn says, "Hi, I'm Mo. I'm a project manager and organizational design consultant based in Botswana. Looking forward to exchanging on how lack of data sanitization, flawed processes, and bypassing ethical functions can be navigated to avoid cognitive bias and uninformed decisions." So just wanted to bring up that comment because it's very relevant to what you were just saying, Craig, and what others have been saying as well.
Absolutely.
I want to shift gears a little bit, Karen, and ask you a sort of an unrelated question, somewhat related, but a little bit different. Contrasting Priority Software and your strategy to NetSuite. I think you're sort of on two different sides of a continuum or spectrum here. You've got NetSuite that's more the single platform SaaS multi-tenant pioneer, from 25 years ago, built in the cloud. And then Priority has taken a different approach, though. You have not historically been a one solution type of company. You've got multiple solutions for different industries and whatnot. How do you think this whole, how do you see this evolving in terms of standard single public cloud solutions versus industry specific solutions? How do you think that's going to unfold in the coming years?
So it's true that we have different line of businesses. Some of them are not only for the ERP arena, but for specific verticals such as retail, hospitality, education, and ERP is like the platform, general platform that is relevant for everyone. We do believe that shortcut for best of breed, it's really it's really good idea because you are coming with the best practice and the onboarding is easier and you have the benchmark from other organization and you have specific functionality that are relevant to specific industry. Sometimes you have specific mobile apps or even specific procedures, but it's not instead of the platform strategy. All of priority products, it doesn't matter which line of business or which industry we are looking at, are based on the platform strategy. Means that the best of breed will be the entry level, but from there you can take the platform and change it or configure it to your business needs, so you will be able to scale it or to change your business model with it. More than that, we sometimes have customers, like a group of companies with different industries. It can happen, and they're working on the same platform. So best of breed or best practices are very good for the short term, for the easy onboarding, and so on, for easy deployment, to shorten the deployment process. But it's not like a limited, tailored solution for that specific industry. It is still a platform, an organization, and our integrators can configure and develop and customize it based on all the platform capabilities. It's still flexible, it's still open, and again, it still have all the other experience and AI features. And I mentioned it before, it's when I'm saying feature in our platform strategy is not like a coded, hard-coded feature. It's usual will be a tool as part of our platform, a low code or a no code or a pro code tool that we can enhance and expand the solution, although the entry point was best of breed.
Right. No, that's well said. And I want to come back to you, actually, Elliot, and I'll start with you on this question. I want to ask everyone sort of a capstone question. Before I get to you, Elliot, though, one other thing I want to point out again, everyone here on this call is part of our Digital Stratosphere event that's coming up late August 27 to 29. It's in person in Denver, or you can join virtually. Scan the QR code right here if you want to learn more about it, see what the pricing looks like. And if you use the word, I'll drop this in the chat, but if you use the discount code EARLYBIRD, you'll get 20% off the cost of the pass. So I'll leave this QR code here, scan it. If you decide you want to register, just use the word EARLYBIRD as the discount code and you'll get 20% off. So I'll leave that up there. But in the meantime, Craig, Elliot, I want to ask you a question to get started here on this, but that is, if you could give one piece of advice to an executive who's evaluating ERP options, what would it be? I'm going to come around and ask all of you that question too.
That's a great question. I think an executive oftentimes gets inundated with the concept that this is purely a technical decision or a technical transformation. And oftentimes when we go into these kind of pre-planning workshops of what to expect for said CEO, COO, CFO, it's a lot more than just overhauling your technical platform. This is an opportunity to really revamp, coordinate, and organize your business processes and your operational processes in place to make this ERP rollout as cleanly as possible. They are disruptive. We can all agree on that, right? But it is a chance and an opportunity for these organizations, whether big or small, to really fine tune and tailor this rollout to work with them and be able to augment all of their nuanced needs that make them who they are and make them competitive in their landscape, right? We don't want to break those down. We don't want to dismantle their complexities. I shouldn't even really use that word, but their approach to certain processes in place need to be encapsulated into said ERP rollout. And that is one of the things that we like to bring to light as soon as possible. Yes, it's new technology. We get that. We're excited that you're ready to go down this journey with any of us out here. But we need to peel back the onion a little bit and appreciate the concept of this is change management that's going to occur. And this is really a great time to increase or at least optimize the velocity of incorporating all of these complexities.
Yeah,
I completely, if I may, I completely agree with that. One of the things that I think many customers have perhaps not taken advantage of is sort of this notion of, if you're going to buy a new system, you should probably be taking best advantage of that. Just doing what you've already been doing with whatever systems that you were using up until this point, and then moving that into the new system that you've spent a lot of money on is not going to get you the outcomes that you actually were looking to achieve with this process in the first place. We have a methodology which we call Suite Success that follows exactly that model. We work with prospects and then customers to understand what they need, map that to how NetSuite's processes support those needs, and use that as the starting point to get them rapidly to achieving value in the cloud on the suite, so to speak. And then from there, let's talk about what's the configuration or customization that's unique to your business, and how do we evolve the implementation to give you even more value. But starting from the perspective of you're moving to NetSuite in our case, NetSuite has some ways of doing that. They've been tried and tested with 42,000 and counting customers, many of them in your micro vertical or vertical. Have an open mind to how that system, our system, has been designed to help businesses just like yours, and that's the change management piece is very often the hardest part of any ERP and business system implementation. And for those that are listening that are thinking about going through this process, that is the lion's share of the success. There is being open to to thinking about how to benefit from the new system that you're purchasing.
Yeah, well said. How about you, Karen?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will add to that when an organization wants to choose or need to choose a new ERP system, it's better that it will be a flexible and open one, and a system that will support him not only on the existing current processes, but on the future, on to more business processes that we do not know yet what are they, but that's the whole idea. Because we are living in an ever-changing reality, and when you choose a system today by functionality, it's not necessarily the one that you will need tomorrow. So choose a flexible one that will be able to grow with you and to adapt to your business needs.
Yeah, well said. How about you, Scott? What advice do you have from a vendor agnostic perspective on how executives should evaluate ERP options and move forward?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, define what ERP means for your organization. Is this just a system of record or back office functionality, or are you looking at a solution to run your business end to end? If you're going to be looking at more of a best of breed approach or something like that, you need to keep in mind data flows, ingress and egress. I'm starting to see what I'm calling the data wars emerge now that AI has taken front and center. You've got a big focus and need, as we talked about, on having good data. Now it's become even a more valuable asset, and some of the vendors are starting to wall off systems. So You need to look at vertical specific functionality. Do you have things in your industry that require some special feature functionality that you're maybe not going to get from a more vanilla solution? And then I think rounding it out is really thinking about your approach. Who are you at your core of an organization? Are you a developer organization? Are you highly technical, or are you more needing something out of the box, something that you can configure in a more maintainable manner? So it's all about, really, to me, knowing who you are first, then taking that and going out to the marketplace and saying, okay, which vendors kind of fit this profile, as opposed to just starting to speak to vendors in the marketplace. I mean, I know I'm human like everyone else, and might meet some of the people on this call and develop a nice rapport, and all of a sudden, these solutions seem great, but I didn't do the homework. I really understand what my needs are. What are we looking to do as an organization? And then I think final point is look at least 15 years ahead as much as you can. These are solutions that you don't really want to be trying to buy and implement more than once in a generation if you can avoid it.
Yeah,
I appreciate that point about looking ahead. And so, I spent the majority of my career, about 15 years, is on the IT side, implementing. So I understand where a lot of folks are coming from this. But I think, for that advice to an executive evaluating ERP, I would actually go to completely non-technical to some degree, right? Features, functions, all of those things are nice, but boy, across all the different projects that I've done, there's really two standout things. One of them is select for your top business drivers. And that plays into looking at your roadmap 5, 10, 15 years out. But the other, I think, really big component, because I've had things go very well in my career and I've had some projects not, and that happens. But it's selecting for a company that you feel like is going to make a good partner. Because the software is there for 15 years, but so is the vendor and the support and the level of interaction and interfacing that you're going to do over time to enhance that, to upgrade it, to make it do things right, new, different, or the way that you want to. So those are two, I think, really big things.
Yeah, well said. And I think the common theme of what you're all saying is a lot of this, most of this is not really a technical discussion. I mean, of course, that's important, but relationships, vision, what you're trying to accomplish as an organization, the people, the change management, all that stuff is super, super critical. So want to thank you guys for all the great advice and insights you've shared here. We've had a couple great comments from people that have had to drop. But Soha on LinkedIn said she enjoyed the conversation. Juan on LinkedIn says excellent topic. And then Chris just echoes what you guys were just saying on LinkedIn. He says an ERP system is an investment. The business needs to grow into the system and is fit for the future needs of the company. I think that's really well said too. So you don't want to just look at what you need today and what's going to work for you today, but to your guys' point, what's going to last you 15 years, who's not just in terms of the solution itself, but the vendor, is this vendor going to be a good fit for you longer term. One last thing, I'll leave you this comment here. If you go to stratosphere2025.com or scan this QR code right here, you can learn more about the Stratosphere Conference, which all of these vendors and myself will be at, and others will be there as well. So it's a great speaker lineup. Really excited for it. We do it every year. Late August in Denver, Colorado. It's a beautiful time to come to Denver if you can make it. If not, we also have virtual passes available. We'll be streaming with multiple cameras, multiple sessions. The whole thing will be streamed online, so you can join that way as well. Use the discount code EarlyBird if you'd like to join. And I want to thank you guys for all being here today. Thank you to the audience for the great questions. Hope to see you all at Stratosphere. And thank you all for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week. We do these live streams, same time, same place, every Tuesday at the exact same time on the exact platform you're watching today. We stream to multiple channels and platforms. You can find us in that same place next week, same time. So hope to see you there. We cover all sorts of tech agnostic stuff related to digital transformations in these discussions.